Good morning, friends, and welcome back to the Up North house for the next update to see what we're going to get done this week. We are going to be starting in the kitchen again. As you've been following along, you notice we have removed wallpaper in here as well as the dining room. And my job today is to go around and patch holes and any kind of damage, especially on this wall. This is the wall where we're going to be having our new wood stove installed. So I want to get this one done first. This wall is actually plaster. It's horsehair plaster or some kind of fiber plaster. You can see it still has the fibers attached, which is cool. So I'll be using plaster repair on that. And then there are a couple of sections of drywall. So on those sections, I do have a different repair. So I'll be using the drywall repair on the drywall sections and plaster of Paris on the plaster sections. Because I know that the drywall compound, like the spackling, is typically a little more elastic. It can shrink and move around at different rates than plaster. So I'm trying to plaster patch and drywall patch appropriately. So you see me doing that. I'm working on that job. While I'm doing that, John is going to be working over here, and probably me too, on this section. You know, we're going to be reworking this area and using as much of it as we can. And the parts that we can't, that we're not going to be using in the same thing, we're going to be removing. So you'll see us removing this upper section and setting aside for later use, and this section of drawers for later use as well. We're going to try to leave this in place and at least part of this cabinet as well. So that's what we're getting into today. Thanks for joining us back for the next update. I do want to show you one cool thing, or actually three cool things. We went on a little excursion to find some tools off Marketplace, and we also came up with a cool thrift shop, and I got a neat ironing board, which I will need for when I make curtains in here. And I like it because it's the old wood kind and it works perfectly. So if you're used to that, if you know that, it's really cool. I'll be reworking that. Very, very excited to find that. Only $10. Amazing. And then we also found this, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, you guys know a lot about this stuff. I believe this is a little matchbox that we can use for our wood stove. And it has a little cowboy on it. So we thought that was appropriate since our other home is in the Southwest, American Southwest. Lots of cowboys around there. So we got that for our little wood stove matches. And then we got this cool thing. It is a radio table. It's going to be for our entryway. We're going to clean it up a bit. It still has the radio in it. I wouldn't obviously trust the wiring. It is, I'll zoom in here. It is quite, degraded, but I'm sure we could rewire. I'm wondering if you guys can help me. It's obviously missing some knobs here. And if I can get it the right closeness, you can see the brand. If you can help me figure out if there is a way, I think it says Air Castle, or no, Air Castle. Yeah, that's right. Air Castle. And all the buttons seem to work. So if you know anything about this or where we could get reworked kind of innards for it, that would be cool. It'd be fun to see if it could work again. But either way, it's a cool table, great condition, and it'll look great in our little entryway. So there's our little thrift haul. And you know the plan for the day in the kitchen. And thanks for joining us again, and we'll get right to it in just a few seconds. John is now removing these sections of the latches along the front so we can reuse those. And then this section of the drawer, like I said, is going to be removed. And what we're going to try to do, you can see the end is the cabinetry, the same as the cabinetry throughout, right? We're going to be removing it back to this wall in here. And so our plan is to try to, I'm going to come in with a multi-tool and just cut out this section right here at the seam. And then we should be able to knock these out because they're with nails. We can knock out the treads, and then if we can keep this section intact, we can then just move it over and face the end of the new cabinet with the original stuff. That will leave, you can see how the floor is underneath. So that'll leave the floor different, which we'll deal with at another time. But for the cabinetry, that would give us a new end that matches, because it's the same dimension as that section. So wish us luck. Cross your fingers for us. All right, first section is down. Yay, it's tongue and groove board. So you can see this is the tongue, this is the groove, and they have two of them together. So now we can save this to make another cabinet over there out of the same thing. Yay, that's awesome. So we're going to keep doing that on all of these sections and see what comes next. I think the next thing will be the big shelves coming off the top. All right, this is the last bit of the facing part. It's the trickiest bit because you can see the tongue and groove is attached all the way down this divider that was in the drawer front. So he's prying that off, trying to get the pieces the most reusable. That's looking good. We even got the moldings for the cabinet closures that were here. Got that off intact so we can remill. Nice. And can we just take a moment to appreciate the tongue and groove and how perfectly milled it is, and it just snaps right in where it's supposed to be. If you've worked with any tongue and groove that has been recently milled, oh, this is a beautiful thing, because this has not been recently milled and it's perfect. It's perfect. So we should be able to reuse this in its entirety in the new shelf. Yay! All right, this is the final shelf, and I just got to point out, Isn't this cool that we've been able to leave this little doily detail on the top shelf? It'll look great in garage shelving. We'll see how long it lasts. It's pretty cute though. And here's the sections. So it's the vinyl shelf that way. John's doing the little cleanup up there on getting some of the trim down that we can reuse. And then we will have this section here, the most tricky to save and repair. All right, so we got the top off. You can see the top is actually two pieces joined together, tongue and groove. And now these boards are the back of this built-in cabinet here. We are leaving this part, so we're gonna go in and use our oscillating tool to trim along here so that we can detach these boards and the rest will stay in the cabinet. And then we should be able to get this free, I believe. And you can see the tongue and groove here. This will be that section that we're hoping to reuse over here. We're gonna have to figure out how to remove this part, the drawer slide part, because it's notched in. If you've never seen the way they do that, they put the tongue and groove together as one piece, and then they notched in here where my finger is to shove this board in to make it very strong, which it is. But we need this to be flush across here so that we can move it across over here. So that's what we're working on next. I'll show you what the outcome is. All right, now we're at the fiddly bit, trying to get this in basically usable piece. I'm gonna try to take this little corner piece off so that we can try to wedge under it, because it's built into the flooring down here.
It's gonna split.
Split it, we're trying to avoid that. At minimum, it may split the tongue and groove apart, which would, I mean, we could put it back, but we think these little things are holding that together. Obviously, they're nailed in to this drawer slide. So if we can get this corner piece separated and then use it to wedge it out of the floor, because it's all the way. Let's see, it's coming. Use serious nails, but at least they're nails, so you can pry them. a wedge using the drawer slide as a lever, kind of. Trying to get it in there. The drawer slide's just coming apart. Well, this is a puzzler. This is a puzzler. All right, we're back. John figured out that this set of flooring is actually nailed this way to the bottom of the boards we want to save. And it's like one unit. This whole thing's one unit. So we want to save this section of floor. So we cut this part out along here with the circular saw and with the Sawzall to make a cut just to the depth of this particular flooring. And now we're taking that part out so that we can then hopefully pry this out as one piece. Fingers crossed. Let's see how it goes. It's a lot of fiddling. With 3 different sizes of pry bars. Fingers crossed, everyone. See what it looks like down here. Okay, so it's also nailed in this way. But now we have room to pry it away from this edge. It's happening. This is very exciting. Hooray! Go, John, go. Woo, woo, woo. We got it. Oh my gosh. That was a lot of doing. But we got it. Yay. All right, here's the look. Eagle eyes will notice we also have our Airstream in the back now. Hooray! No more close quarters out front. This is an area you just saw us clean twice. Sometimes it goes that way. I cleaned out the wood debris. John and I swept it, vacuumed it, all that. And then I started to remove the plaster, and a lot more of it wanted to come down than initially thought. So I went ahead and took it down and then cleaned it all again. So it's okay. Vacuuming is quite soothing, right? So this area will be, the larger area will not be plaster patched with my little plaster of Paris kit. It'll be patched with Durock drywall for behind tile. We'll be having a backsplash over here. This is the area where our kitchen sink is gonna go. In the distant future, not this year, there will be windows above. But in preparation for that, we're gonna go ahead and do our backsplash area for that section. So it needed to come down anyway, because we don't wanna risk losing tiles in the future, right? So here we are, cleaned twice, ready to go. Next time you see me, we will be working on some of those little patches like you see over here on this wall. Right there, and all over here and there. All right, it's time to make the plaster mix. This is, again, that plaster of Paris. Good for crafts, too. The directions say to use 2 parts plaster to 1 part cold water. And I have a dedicated bucket. It's a cleaner bucket for this purpose, just to mix what you can use in 6 to 10 minutes. So I'm gonna mix a very small amount. I have an old Arby's cup here. So I'm gonna pour in 2 parts of the Paris, plaster of Paris here. I think I can get it in there. Let's see. Maybe I'll set it down a little better. I have this old knife too. All right, almost. All right, there's a good cup full. So that's 1. Now the second cup. Okay. Whoops, a little bit extra on that one. Put some of that back in. All right, 2. And then one of the parts is going to be water. So same measurement, just water this time. You can see my little mixture in there. Add my water to it, and then we mix it. Okay. Okay, it's starting to mix up. See the consistency now. It's starting to be kind of, well, plaster consistency. All right, so now that that's mixed up, I'm going to go over to my wall and quickly do this so that I can take the camera with me and show you the patch part. All right, I'm over here between the 2 windows on the north side. We had a shelf here. And I want to try to do a couple of things. Obviously, fill these voids here. This is about a finger size hole. Some of them are just small, like nail holes. But I also want to kind of fill any cracks that I can. I know some of these cracks may well open back up over time. But while I've got the material, I might as well do it. There will be a cabinet put in this place using the material that we just removed from the other cabinets you saw. However, I still want the wall behind to look, you know, okay when we open the doors. So I'm gonna work on filling the cracks while my material is a little bit more loose consistency. You can see it starts to set up as you go a little bit more. So while it's still a little soft, I'm gonna go along and do crack fill. Just pushing it in there. I'm using like a 1.5 inch kind of blade for the delivery of it all. And just kind of pushing it in multiple directions there. I know from working with plaster at our place in Arizona, we're doing lime plaster walls. One of the tricks is just don't overwork it, which is really hard. So I'm taking a 4-inch blade just to smooth it once over top of it to remove that. And then I end up with a little bit on my blade, and I'll take that and just smush it into the next crack and, you know, try to use it. But after you've used that a couple of times, it really is less usable. You don't want to overdo it, like I said. So as this continues to set up, you'll see the consistency is now changing. It can stay on my knife a little better. I'm going to go ahead and push it into some of the larger voids that I have, like that. And this, these voids, I have vacuumed them off, but there are fibers in there still. This is, usually I think they would use horsehair for their fiber to bind the lime plaster. So I don't know what hair they use, but you can see the fibers in there, and I'm leaving that. Obviously you can't get it all out anyway, but it's hopefully going to help hold my new coat of patch on there. So there are fibers in these holes, and you know, can't hurt in my case. So it's a pretty wet mix. So I've got that on there. Now I'm going to take my big knife again over that section and just kind of go over it once. Got that left on it. Go back for the crack. Fill that in. And the trick again, just to not overwork it. It's hard because you'll start to pull it back and you'll see a scrape or a void in what you just did. And the best thing to do is just leave that. And then when you go back and sand it after this coat, you'll be able to go back with a finer, wetter mix tomorrow or the next day. In this case, I think this stuff said it sets up in like 10 minutes, and you can see the consistency is already changing there. So now I can go for these larger voids. So you just kind of have to work in different areas as the material sets up at different, consistencies. So you won't want to put a really wet stuff in these gigantic voids like this. This isn't gigantic, it's like the size of my thumb, but it's easier when it's a little firmer consistency, for sure. All right, so I just kind of push it onto the wall, pull down, and then, I don't know if you can see that over here, can't. And then you go with the big one more time and just smooth over what you did to get the excess off, and then put that back in another hole that's smaller. So that's the thing that I'm doing. I'll go around the room and do some of that, and then I'll catch you in a moment. Okay, here's the final look of today's video. Thank you so much again for joining us for the work we got done today. We can't wait to get this room ready to use. We are one step closer, a few days work and one step closer. You can see some of the plaster I did yesterday is beginning to set up. It's this more white section. There was a deeper hole here, and it's still probably leather hard here. You can see the little marks I was telling you about that I'm gonna go back and be sanding on with a fine grit before we do any painting. So we're gonna paint first, or maybe a time in the future where we do have wallpaper, something cool in here. But for now, like I said, the name of the game is make it livable and clean. So thanks for joining us for this week's update. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you liked it. If you like it, please like the video. If you didn't, please like the video anyway. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you back here next Thursday for whatever is happening then.